Zoe Gardner, is America still our friend?
No, I think it's quite obvious that America hasn't been our friend for quite a while now, and that all of the disgusting, sycophantic sucking up that we've done has got us absolutely nothing, because Trump does what Trump likes. At any given moment, Trump will behave in the way that Trump feels like. He will take what he wants. It's the attitude of a rapist, which is what he is. And so we can, debase ourselves and roll out the red carpet and let him sip tea with the king. And he'll still turn around and insult us and demand that we follow him against the democratic will of the British people into whatever war he feels like.
Look at the number of Brits who appear in American TV shows and movies, and how many of our singers they like, and those sorts of things, through to the personal connections between people as well. I'm proud to be married to an American. When I go over there and visit my American family with my wife, it's the warmest of receptions. It's the closest I feel to being at home of any of the countries or continents I've traveled to around the world. And that stuff goes much deeper than politics, as well it should. And that's why the special relationship will endure no matter what.
Zoe?
I mean, I think that's pretty absurd. What we've seen is actually a huge surge in American residents of the UK applying for nationality and naturalization here in this country, driven by the fact that they don't want to return to a country led by such a maniacal despot. And I don't blame them, and we welcome them. The relationships between people are completely different and separate to the relationships between a madman like we're seeing in the White House and our government, and whether or not we should be able to democratically exercise our own sovereignty over whether or not we participate in illegal wars of offence and of choice, or whether we should just simply be told by Trump what to do at any given moment. So it's really nice that we have warm relationships with individual Americans. Most individual Americans actually hate Donald Trump. His approval ratings are through the floor. The cost of living in the United States is through the roof. And what this is going to do to our economy, his latest actions, is obviously going to be incredibly damaging as well, because we've seen that the price of energy is already soaring through the roof. That's going to lead to more inflation and the cost of living going up for everybody in the UK. This impacts us all in our day-to-day lives. And it simply isn't good enough to say, well, I like some Americans, and therefore we still have a special relationship with Donald Trump's MAGA White House.
America is absolutely still our friend. When we look at the in-depth...
Do you agree with what Donald Trump said about Keir Starmer? Do you agree with those very disobliging remarks, shall we say, about Keir Starmer?
I have to say I do. I think the best friends do speak home truths to us. I also agree with him that our immigration policy has been absolutely ludicrous for a long time. And I know that Zoe definitely does disagree with that. It's her day job to advocate, it seems, for immigration from places that are completely incompatible with us. And that seems to be, if we're looking at polling, what most Brits agree with as well. So I think those are hard home truths that Donald Trump is saying to the country. And that's what best friends do.
Sorry.
I think it's very interesting that you've turned towards so many personal attacks on me. I think it shows the weakness of your position when you try to defend Donald Trump, because the fact of the matter is the vast majority of the British public agree with me. We don't like Donald Trump, and we hate his immigration policy as well. So I don't know why you think that that's a relevant attack line to bring in here. Him attacking our government and our country on racially divisive lines is not what this country needs. It doesn't do us any good. It doesn't help anybody pay their bills. In fact, it's going to make that harder. And it undermines our pride. You know what we should be doing, actually? We should be having an urgent process of de-Yankification of our government and our foreign policy and our defense and our tech industry, which would create real UK sovereignty and independence from the impact of this dangerous regime.
Would this not hit us economically to an extent? We have to keep things sweet to an extent, don't we?
I think to an extent we're in a position of subservience because of decades of people like James's approach to foreign policy, which is subservient to the United States. And what we need to be doing now is moving as quickly as we possibly can towards a position of greater independence away from the United States in all spheres, particularly in defense. The best time to start doing that would have been about 3 decades ago, but the next best time to do it is today.
What about 2 years' time when there might be another president who is less inimical?
Well, I think that we can't, what this has proven is that we simply can't tie our future and our democracy and our capability of self-defense in this country to the United States. We can't depend on another country because they might vote in a maniac. And I very much hope that US democracy will assert itself. But Donald Trump is not acting like a man who has any intention of leaving the White House. Sorry?
It was an assertion of US democracy when he was elected.
Yeah, but I think that there are serious concerns about how he's approaching future elections. And I think that what we're going to see is question marks over the freedom and fairness of future US elections. And I really hope that that isn't the case, but I think that it is reasonable to be concerned that that may well be the case, and that the future of the US as an ally to the UK is simply not something that we can be putting our eggs in that basket. It's not safe. We need to be working on independence and de-Yankification.
Mm-hmm. Go on then, James. Respond to that. We'll come to
well, just firstly, I'd like to point out 6 days ago when Zoe tweeted out sending all the energy and good vibes to the Green Party volunteers today.
Yeah, I supported them in the last election. I think their policies are better. Like, what?
Which is right.
This is desperate, mate.
On this idea of de-Yankification, it would be a scary thing for my wife next door to hear this idea that, again, you're lumping one person in charge of the country in with an entire populace on the many,
many talking about bringing ICE agents in to get rid of all Americans.
On that economic relationship. This is absurd. This is the biggest economy in the world, the biggest military power in the world, it's our biggest intelligence partner in the world.
Oh, sorry, can I just come back on the reason why I, like a majority of voters in that by-election, supported the Green candidate is because the Greens are offering something different from this sort of uni-party status quo rubbish that we've had for years, that is based simply on dividing people within this country between one another, ordinary people, in order to maintain the corrupt relationships with the likes of Trump's America and the private tech firms and the private defense firms that benefit from that relationship, rather than ordinary
How's that a corrupt
people.
Relationship with Trump's America?
Peter Mandelson. I mean, look at what Peter Mandelson was doing. He was enmeshed. He was chosen as our US ambassador, not despite the fact that he had relationships with Jeffrey Epstein and all of those disgusting, corrupt parts of politics, but because that was going to get him in with the Trump regime. That was the calculation that our government made, and that was supported by most of the Tory party. I haven't trawled through James's tweets to find some sort of gotcha, but I would be amazed if he was against the appointment of Peter Mandelson back then. So this is what we're seeing, is that the three major parties, Labour, the Tories and Reform, all seem to have the same line on maintaining these corrupt relationships of power broking between private companies, international corporations, whether that's in tech, in defense, in energy. And none of that money ever ends up back on our high streets, reinvigorating our towns and supporting our public services. That's what the Greens stood for in the last election. That's why I supported their candidate.
You want de-Yankification, Zoe? Should we get rid of all the American-made drugs that keep people alive as well?
I'll tell you what we should get rid of in that sense. We should get rid of the latest deal between the NHS and Trump.
Trump and the way he speaks, that we should de-Yankify. I think that's frankly, if we were saying about any other country, people might go as far as to say that was an offensive way to speak about another country, especially a close friend of ours.
The latest deal that we've struck between the NHS and the Donald Trump regime means that the NHS will be paying much more for life-saving drugs. And that means that you and I, the taxpayer, will be paying more into the NHS for people who are sick to be supported with life-saving medicines. That is the kind of deal that we get from tying ourselves ever closer with Trump's America. That is the kind of healthcare that we are moving towards. We will have ordinary people paying more in order to enrich US drug corporations at a higher rate.